Dane Calloway. First of all, Grant Kush, welcome to the channel. This is the Grant Kush channel where we deal with nine science, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, dealing with some people, you melaninites, and the mankind races. Uh, your self-proclaimed chief, Dane Calloway, keeps trying to get away with calling Black Americans the indigenous Niji. Okay. First, he was like Native Indians, right? And then he said, don't use Native because of the know nothings. And then he said, it's American Indians. And now, because of Tim and Phoebe, right, hell bent on calling Black Americans Niji, Dane Calloway has went back and started proclaiming that Black Americans are the indigenous Niji now, right? Why is he changing so much? Okay. He just dropped a whack video on the movie Sinners, the exposure of the movie Sinners. And he went in and talked about the Delta Blues. I didn't watch it all because, you know, you start seeing through the bullshit, right? And so he's talking about the Delta Blues, the origin of jazz, you know, where jazz came from in Louisiana and things of that nature. And I wonder if the nigga is even from the Delta in Mississippi. Now, I've been through the Delta in Mississippi, right? It's interesting that he didn't mention Clarksdale in his video, but my wife is from the Delta in Mississippi, and there was more to the movie Sinners than just the blues, right? He didn't even get into religion. He didn't get into God. He didn't get into any of that. Now, I'll check myself on that because I didn't watch the video to the end. Maybe he got into it, but halfway through the video, he was long-winded, talking about things that were unnecessary. But let's clear up this indigenous Niji. Are the Black Americans in America the indigenous Niji? And have they always been called the Niji, misnomered Black Americans, African Americans, Negroes, and the likes, right? Well, I want to say that you have been misinformed. Black Americans, nor have American Indians ever called themselves a Niji as far as the nationality or as far as an indigenous name, the way Dane Calloway is using it, right? So let's bust his bubble right quick. First, let's just look up Niji, right? Because look, over time, things change. Over time, things change. And with this internet and social media, there will be a lot of information now that's connecting Niji to indigenous American Indians and connecting them to Black people, right? And also, there's information out there now saying that Black Americans do not have African ancestry, and that's bullshit. We about to go into it. We are, as Africans, are the civilizers on the planet. We've been all over the world on them, right? And we never went by Indian. Okay, we never went. People with woolly hair never call themselves Indians. Just like the American Indians or the indigenous people of this land never call themselves Indian. Okay, and so you can't lump all people together, right? Just like you can't lump all Africans together. Outside of Africa, we say those are Africans, but if you ask a particular African where he is from, he'll let you know where he's from inside Africa. So we got to cut the bullshit out, right? But first, let's bring up these screens. Niji. like to put in the origin of Niji. Okay, let's bring up the screen. So this is Google, right? I got it on images. Okay. Origin of Niji. Boom. Let's hit it like that. Okay. And so you see what pops up. The origin of Niji. Okay. Now, this group right here, the sister with the hat on, the lovely sister with the hat on, and the brother with the Tom Selleck mustache, they are pushing that Black Americans are the Niji, right? And I know why they're doing that, because they're clout chasing, right? Controversy sells. They want to be controversial. It'll have you tune in to their show, right? You see this hat down here. It says the OG Niji, black. All right. Anytime you use black, you can't use black without talking about Africans. Okay. Africans with woolly hair. All right. So this is the images section of this search, the origin of the Niji. But we're concerned with language. We're concerned with language. I know these weak scholars, these weak researchers, they don't want to deal with language, but you got to deal with language because that's how we speak. Okay. Origin of Niji. The Niji originates in the Ojibwe language. It doesn't manifest itself in all of the so-called Indian languages. It comes out of the Ojibwe language, right? There's hundreds and thousands, if not millions, of languages in Africa. They're all not the same. So we got to look at language the same anywhere. Okay. So it says Niji originates in the Ojibwe language and is a vocative term traditionally used by men to address each other. It can be understood as a shortened form of Niji ka Wenhe, which translates to my brother, my cousin, my fellow man. According to the Ojibwe People's Dictionary, the Ojibwe also use the form Niji, which is a common greeting. Okay, according to a YouTube video about Ojibwe greeting protocol. And so, how are Black Americans in America the indigenous Niji? Right? When this word Niji is just used in a vocative common greeting. What's up, brother? Okay. We're not called the brothers. Black Americans are not called the brothers, though. What's up, sister? How you doing, sis? Black Americans are not called the brothers and the sisters, though. And so that indigenous Niji shit has just been smashed by the understanding of the word and the language of Ojibwe in which it originated. Okay, you can't take that and make it a nationality, ethnicity. You understand what I'm saying? You can't do that. Let's go here, though. Okay, because I want to bring up a book that's going to speak on a brother by the name, an Indian brother, a so-called Indian brother by the name of Mike Haney. Okay. Now, I try to explain to people about the AIM movement. And I said, if you're the original indigenous Indians of this land, Black Americans with woolly hair, when the AIM movement kicked off, okay, why weren't you a part of it? The majority of Black people were down with the Black Panthers in the 60s when the AIM movement originated because of the Black Panther Party, right? In similarity to the Black Panther Party, right? But the majority of Black people were either down with the Black Panther Party, the African movement, the grassroots movement, or they were Uncle Tom's sellouts and things of that nature. But hardly any Black person was down with the American Indian movement. No Black person even protested against the American Indian movement by way of stating, hey, we are the American Indians, the indigenous Niji, and why are you moving this organization in our names? That never happened. So let's bring up AIM, right? AIM. Now there's another movement that kicked off in the 1800s. Is it the 1800s? I might have the dates messed up, and I can't think of the fraternal secret brotherhood that they put together in connection with the ghost foreigners that came in. But it's American Indian Society or whatever. I might do another video on it, but let's go with the American Indian movement that started in Minnesota. I lived in Minnesota for like 10 years. My sons are from Minnesota, and I used to kick it with the Ojibways up there. Okay, the Ojibways is in Minnesota, right? All right, so let's look. The American Indian Movement was a Native American activist organization founded in 1968 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, initially focused on addressing issues of police brutality and racial profiling against Native Americans in urban areas. Where do they get these ideas? They got these ideas from the Black Panther Party, right? AIM expanded its focus to include broader Native American civil rights, anti-imperialism, and anti-racism. AIM gained prominence through its direct action protests and became a driving force in the indigenous civil rights movement. Okay, and this civil rights movement is not kicking off before our civil rights movement. Okay, let's see if they have any pictures with the Black Panthers. Okay, this is the Indian symbol, prominent picture of the American Indians in the American Indian movement. I don't see no woolly haired people down there, right? Okay. Our people knew what was going on with these people, but this is Minnesota, right? Remember, I told you about Mike Haney, okay? This might be the brother right here, Mike Haney, this brother right here in the front. They could be. But yeah, this is the American Indian movement. Let's see if we can put in, this is Mike Haney right here. The dude, it could be the dude to the left. One of these dudes is Mike Haney. When you see his picture, right, this other information I'm going to bring up, you're going to, this might be him too. Right. He's a prominent dude. He was a prominent dude in the American Indian movement. All right, it's the American Indian movement, right? Okay. You see what's going on. There's no protests up until this point from them. They got this from us. Where is the Black people? Okay, where is the indigenous Niji at this time? Right. Yeah, y'all down with the blacks. Y'all down with the African movement. That's what's cracking in the 60s. Ain't no Black Indian movement cracking off. So that's the American Indian movement. So let's go to this information right here and let's see what he says. Matter of fact, let's see if I can bring him up. Oh, I do have him up. Do I have him up? Here he is right here. I do have him up. I have some information up on him. That's him right there. Mike Haney, longtime activist and one of the people on the cutting edge for the work done by the National Coalition on Racism in Sports and Media, has gone home to his ancestors. Rest in peace. Mike, a beloved friend and strong heart, passed away on Saturday morning, October 8th, 2005. Mike's family had previously put out an urgent plea for prayers as Mike remained in critical condition in Oklahoma. Okay. So that's that information right there. I didn't know this information was about that, but rest in peace to the activists. Okay. Let me go out of here. All right, this is their thing, right? This is their thing. Okay. And you can go study this right here. This is all the information, not all the information, but just put in his name and you're going to get the American Indian movement information, what they did. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. There may not be a lot of information that come up on this. I'm just doing searches just to see if he's anywhere connected with. All right, so let me take his name out. Okay. The Black Panther Party was giving everybody a voice, right? And all you got to do is search this yourself. Okay. There might be fake Indians, though. Okay, the Black Panther Party, 1,500 rally to free AIM activists. Okay. Nobody black at this time is saying we the indigenous need you. Okay. Dan Calloway is bumping your head real hard because he don't study history. Wounded Knee goes on trial. Black Panther Party. Okay. This is the 60s. Where the races in America, that the people of color in America that was also oppressed, discriminated against, and had to deal with brutality and racism, was in alignment with the mind of the black people in the 60s. COINTELPRO wasn't just about the Messiah. Okay. Black people was unifying the people. Do you dig what I'm saying? Yeah, we was unifying the people, my people. Right? So this is the 60s. The Reformation on sun knowledge, positive ethereal knowledge, under nine science came in the 90s. And it came through conscious hip hop. It came by way of Dr. Malachi Z. York in New York in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And a lot of people jumped on Nuwapu in the 90s. There's a lot of people who just don't talk about it anymore, but it's still relevant. They think it's not relevant because the master teacher was jailed and imprisoned. Okay. but we still dealing with nature science. So let's go into it. And so we're still talking about Mike Haney and what he said, right? So first, let's play this. Let's not play this, but let's show this. Let's Set the Record Straight by Dr. Malachi Z. York. Okay. He references this book, The Book of Elders, The Life Stories and Wisdom of Great American Indians by Sandy Johnson. Africans are mentioned in this book. Okay. And the master teacher goes on to say, this is proof that the Native Americans are a mixture of Africans also. Africans. Okay. As they told of the African people, or stories say that we came from a darker people, that the Africans were the original people. You can get white from black, but by dilution, but you can never get black from white. You can never get ether from ghosts, but ghosts can come out of ether. The colors in between were evolutionary phases according to our legends. Let's see that. Now let's go to the book. Okay. Let's go to the book. Okay. Let's go to the top so y'all don't say you just pull this from anywhere, right? What number was that? 226. This book was written in 1994. Okay. This is the Book of Elders. All right. So let's go to the part where Mark Haney is in the book. That's him right there. Mike Haney. Okay, Mike's fight for Indian rights. Half Seminole, half Lakota, Mike Haney grew up on the reservation in Seminole County, Oklahoma, where the more than 300,000 American Indians make up 36 different tribes. Every tribe that had declared war against the U.S. ended up in Oklahoma. Mike's fight for Indian rights takes him all over the country. He appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1992 and talked about the use of Indian names as mascots for sports teams. Recently, he formed the Coalition Against Racism in Sports and Media. If you're about my age, you've probably seen this episode on Oprah Winfrey as a Black American, and you wasn't saying to yourself, I'm an Indian too. You wasn't doing that because you was Black with African ancestry at that time, if you're my age. Recently, he formed a coalition against racism in sports and media. He pointed out that we don't have the Chicago Caucasians or the New York Negroes, but we do have the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Redskins. In January of 1992, Mike and a group of activists put up a 20-foot high teepee outside a gate at the Metrodome in Minneapolis during the Super Bowl and led 2,000 demonstrators in protest over the name of the Washington Redskins. Probably can look that up. Okay. He also takes issue with the names of vehicles such as Cherokee Jeeps, Winnebago RVs, and Dakota trucks on the grounds that they play off old stereotypes of the dime store Indian. Okay, so let's go down, right? So this is him right here. Now I want you to peep out what he said. All right. Now look, he got that spider symbol. So West African symbol. The cross symbol in the middle is an African symbol. All right. Mike's activism is partly inherited. His uncle Jerry Haney is the elected chief of the Seminole tribe of Oklahoma. A cousin, Enoch Kelly Haney, is a famed artist and Oklahoma state senator. Mike, a future elder, is the elected second chief of the newcomer band in the Seminoles Alligator tribe. Okay. In 1972, I was a member of the first American Indian Movement chapter in Oklahoma. It was at a time when many tribes were suffering. My tribe, the Seminole Nation, had an operating budget of around $20,000. So we met in churches or in the courthouse. We had no facility of our own. We were just a bunch of Indians speaking out about treaty compromises, how wrong it was, how we should have our own court systems, our own schools, things I thought were right on target as far as providing solutions to some of the problems. But the concept of independently vested nations within the jurisdictional boundaries of the United States was outrageous to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the U.S. government. Okay, so I want to just go down. I don't want to read all of this. I know how dangerous that was to us. The elders spoke the truth when they said that we had to have a spiritual rebirth, become born again primitives, born again pagans, like the buttons I see every once in a while. I had accepted a lot of challenges over the years, and I was always somehow able to overcome them, but I met more than I could manage with alcohol and drugs. For 3 years, I was drunk. I was in my 20s and one of the youngest leaders in AIM. During that time, I was in a self-imposed exile in Oklahoma. Okay. He's talking about he got into a fight, but this is where I want to get to now. We want to get to 226. After the near-death experience, I had renewed faith in life and of my own purpose. My uncle Phillip Deer, a Muskogee spiritual leader, took me through a series of sweat lodge ceremonies afterward. Okay. And this is no reflection on the extraordinary work that the American Indian movement has done and is continuing to do. So yes, I was very unhealthy spiritually and mentally. I'm grateful that I had someone who loved me and took the time with me like Phillip Deer did. It must have hurt him terribly to hear stories of me hanging out in bars, not doing anything with my life. I needed someone to treat me and to counsel me, to reach out and take my hand and pull me back onto the red road. I know the white people have that with their 12-step program, AA. That's another picture of them right there. Okay. Which is based on their Bible. I just thank the Creator that I was born Indian and that the Creator gave us these ceremonies to heal ourselves. I want to keep them sacred and holy. Okay. And so check this out. This is what he writes. It says, it's my understanding from our legends that the reason we have the 4 colors is that we were all children of God, not 4 races, but one race of 4 different colors: white clay, red clay, black clay, and yellow clay. And we feel that all people were given original instructions from Creator. Those who have gotten away from them have suffered. I'm told that in Africa, beer was and continues to be one of the treatments given by their medicine men, but alcohol and sugar were not indigenous to this area. Therefore, our chemical makeup couldn't metabolize it. All right. Just as diseases ravaged us when they were introduced into our culture. You know, black people drink a lot of beer, right? Just as diseases ravaged us when they were introduced into our culture because we had no defense mechanism to fight them. Okay. Where is it in history that there was black people are dying from an outbreak of diseases in history? The same is true with sugar and alcohol. Our metabolism was affected by it then and still to this day continues to be. This can be proven and documented, and it's exactly what our elders have always taught us. I think that our traditional people are right when they tell us that the Creator gave us everything necessary to survive on this land. There are healing herbs all around us, foods, medicines, right? Got sin and medicine, Medusin. You know, you can go back to the Persians Empire with the well, if you get what I'm saying. It's up to us to learn from our elders. They are charged with the responsibility of keeping the knowledge and passing it on to their own clans and to the young ones coming up. We need to listen more and more to these elders. These legends and stories are not just fairy tales, they're scientific evidence. There is merit to our history. Okay. So Phillip Deer, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm at. And this is where the information is confirmation. Phillip Deer spoke to the elders council after he had just come from Europe and Africa. This ain't back in the day, so don't be like, see, I told you, the Indians came from Africa. Nah, this is the 60s. Phillip Deer spoke to the elders council, and he had just come from Europe and Africa. And he had one of these beaded sacred hoops about 10 inches in diameter with the 4 directions in the middle. He laid it down in front of us. We were sitting in a big circle and asked, can anyone tell me where this came from? We passed it around and looked at it. Somebody said it looks Arapaho to me because of the peyote stitch here. Another person said it looks like a Southern Cheyenne because these beads come only from a certain period. Everybody had their own ideas about which particular tribe it had come from. He stunned us all when he said it came from Africa. It had the 4 colors. It had the 4 colors of mankind on it. Our legends talked about the coming of the white man, the Kalani, which means blonde or yellow. And they told of the African people, our stories say that we came from a darker people, okay? That the Africans were the original people. You can't get white from black by dilution, but you can never get black from white. These colors in between were evolutionary phases according to our legends, okay? And what are the legends? The legends are about and come from and being taught by the original Humanite people on the planet. All right, so let's look at some of these symbols in Nuwapu. I rock with Nuwapu, but if I didn't, and if I had to just look at the symbols and base certain symbols on research and ancient symbols, then, there may be some connections if you understand, like a symbol like this. Okay. Now, there's a lot of information that's also connected to this information now, because there's some rejects out there who thought they were teachers but didn't really know what they're talking about. Sauce right now under 6 ether mind confinement. Symbols like this, if you can understand, all right? So, the Congo religion. The Congo religion. Let's share this. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go too much into it. But these symbols predate their symbols. All right, like this symbol right here. Another important characteristic of Bakongo cosmology is the sun and its movements. And this symbol right here is the symbol that I have in my backdrop in between Grand Kush, if you understand the symbol, because we're sun people. We're not Christians. You understand? We were converted to Christianity, but by nature, we're not Christians. Just like we're not Muslims and we're not really Hebrews. We predate all of that, right? But for the sake of fitting into, if you have a belief system that and a spirit that requires you to be a part of some religious system, well, yeah, we're in all of it as well. Okay. Another important characteristic of Bakongo cosmology is the sun and its movements. The rising, peaking, setting, and absence of the sun provide the essential pattern for Bakongo religious culture. But you will find this in all of Africa, because there's only sun culture and there's moon culture. And by vision, looking at the moon, what color is the moon? It's ghost, right? So Christianity goes along with ghost. Okay, so this is some breakdown on the Congo religion, but understanding the symbols, the colors, okay, the colors, right? You see, if you understand it. If you understand it. Because you got to be dealing with colors, frequencies. The symbols have meanings. They have, you know, there's knowledge that come along with the symbols. All right. If you can dig it. So that's the medicine wheel. And they said this symbol came from Africa. This is a last little piece of information to show you that African Indian information came from African information, right? So here is a composite of both symbols together in relation to each other. All right. And with that being said, there can be Black Americans in America with woolly hair that do not have any African ancestry, right? We gotta, you know, just the double back. Mike Haney from the American Indian movement, stating that he got this symbol from Africa and that they came from darker skinned people and that the Africans were the original people. Okay. And then also I threw in some Dane Calloway in there for you, just for a little bit of controversy, and just to kind of say that the video that he made on Sinners was whack. And the indigenous Niji is not a nationality, and the Black Americans never called themselves the indigenous Niji. There is no indigenous Niji movement except the Dane Calloway Indian movement. That's the only Niji movement that's going on right now that's never occurred in history. Okay. And anytime you use the term black in connection with anything, okay, now since we're being critical and technical, we got to wonder, are you talking about dark-skinned people with straight hair? Or are you talking about dark-skinned people with woolly hair? There is a difference, okay? And so the people with the woolly hair, where do they really originate from? Peace.